Welcome back. It's time to try on dark mode. We're here to talk about working in IT, video games, tech, and everything outside the 9 to 5. I'm one of your hosts, Keegan Lassard.
And I'm Taylor Floyd Muse, and apparently we're
Hey,
making a habit out of this sunglass wearing thing, huh?
hey. Officer Nasty is here. And he's here to stay.
Who
Got
were
the
you last week
aviators.
then?
What was the terminology for the small cute stuff or whatever?
Oh yeah, I looked it up, and apparently that's called busakawa in Japanese.
Kusakawa.
So you are
That's
busakawa ugly cute.
Well, hey man, dude, it's 52, episode 52. I mean, come on, you gotta do something.
Yeah, it's like unofficially a year because we technically we started our first episode release on the 21st, but this is episode 52, 52 weeks. That's a year as far as a weekly podcast is concerned. So happy birthday,
Man,
dark mode.
happy anniversary, boo.
Boo, you say it to our faces behind us, like, hey boo.
Hey boo. Yeah, man. So we are going to be kind of celebrating though. It's on October 21st is like the actual.
Yeah, that's a Wednesday though. So we're not releasing them, but maybe you'll see a special Instagram post or the
Be on the
announcement.
lookout. Yeah.
Something's gonna hit something.
We don't know what that something is, but it's gonna surprise you and us.
And us. Well said. Yeah, we're still figuring it out, but we do have plans as far as starting a season 2. Next week we'll actually kick off our season 2. The reason why we're going next week and not taking a break is because of the Apple event, which we'll get to in a little bit. But season 2, new things.
We are definitely generating a season 2, and we're gonna come into the next season with the mantra that less is actually more. We are definitely gonna go for smaller episodes, and we're gonna go on a bi-weekly episodes for our actual podcast, like our episodes that we do every week that you guys have been watching.
I got a lot of feedback from people, friends and family that, our hour to hour and a half episodes, sometimes upwards to 2, was too long. And initially I was always like, well, podcasts are, that's their length. Like people commute with them, but then now commutes don't exist anymore. So hour and a half of just sitting at home listening to us is a bit much. So we'll be cutting
I'm too
it down.
ugly for YouTube, bro. Like I can't be on YouTube that long.
But you were already on YouTube for the past year looking like that.
Yeah, sorry, YouTube.
But yeah, I think 40 minutes will be a good sweet spot. We'll shoot for that. Sometimes will be less, sometimes more. But the bi-weekly cadence will allow for us to make new content on those off weeks as well. So don't expect just nothing from us. But, there was weeks where we would have too much, right? Like we're like, oh, how do we fit this in? And then the next week it was like, we don't have anything. So you could tell we're reaching. So now we'll be able to hand select better topics and give them more worthwhile chatter than just an hour and a half of rambling. So
yeah, and speaking of topics, we're actually in the next season kind of going to be moving away from just the overarching work topic. I know. But considering
we got fired.
Yeah, we do not have jobs anymore.
No, none of that. We're still employed.
We still work in IT, and that's still going to be an overarching theme about this podcast. And with the times being as they are, work topics are kind of they're just not happy at this point. Like they're just,
yeah. I mean,
there's nothing good to talk about, and it's just we want to move on to better things for you, the audience.
I got better reception about the other topics anyway, but don't think IT is just gonna go completely away because that was what the foundation of this podcast. So we're gonna shift gears on the IT tropes, and you'll see them come forward in different ways. I'll just leave it at that. We're still fleshing out the details, but I think you guys will enjoy it better than just hearing us get on stage and talking about what QA is like and this happened at work today.
You wouldn't believe what the PM had me do last week, bro.
Yeah. I mean, there might be some funny work stories that will seep into here, but we're not gonna talk about open office plans anymore, and the benefits.
Yeah, or waterfall methodology versus agile.
What about river functionality? Let's make it. Video series. I'm just kidding. But yeah, Apple event is next week. I don't even know anything else other than the iPhone 12 is gonna get announced. for sure this time. All right, like
Didn't you make a bet about this announcement?
yeah, and I opened it up with I was wrong, but last time I said I was wrong because they didn't even have it. So like I don't remember what my bet was.
Dude, I got an
Oh, I
idea.
remember now.
No, 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 you don't. No, no, you don't. You don't remember.
I do.
What is it?
So I had made a guess that the pricing of a lot of things recently had been like completely misjudged. Like a lot of people were like, "Oh, the GPUs from Nvidia are going to be like at minimum like $1,000, like they're going to be too much."
Right.
And then they came out with crazy value. So my guess was that the iPhone event was going to come out and the prices were going to be cheaper than people expected. I don't know how by how much, but people were saying that like they think that the base model of the iPhone, or not the base model, the Pro model is going to be like $1,200, and I don't believe that. But
I'll
I could
take
be
you up on
wrong.
a bet. I'll take you on a bet on this.
So we're betting now.
I bet you're wrong.
All right.
And
I'm not putting money on it, but I'll place a slap bet. You're gonna see me shortly after
okay.
the event. That's a prime
Okay.
opportunity to come out the car upon arrival and just
No Germex first? You're not
no,
gonna feel
you're
like a
pure
little
NL, you're pure NL up, Purell, all that, like Germex, all the works, off brand, everything, all on
just
the hand, and then just
zero hug,
cleanse my
zero like,
face.
hey, haven't seen you since January, hug it in. It's just gonna be a pow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but if I'm right, it's gonna be like, oh hey, how was your drive? Oh, it was pretty shitty, huh?
At
Just
least you're
add
not gonna make
insult
me
to
wait.
injury. What?
At least you're not gonna make me wait until like the end of like I'm about to head back to Kansas
Yeah,
City.
I'm not about like that. Well, if I had multiple, like spread out,
Oh
like
yeah.
then I'd do but like, just one, like why not just get it over with? It'll be more funny when you're like all happy to see me and then I just like end your life with a slap. But who knows?
Oh.
We'll see what happens. Apple events next week, but in the meantime, we got Amazon doing weird shit. They made a streaming gaming service and it's just basically their own version of Stadia.
I when I heard this news, I,
You didn't have words.
I don't know. I didn't know how to react, honestly. Like at this point, I feel like Amazon is just force feeding the game industry to let them like they're like, please allow us to be a part of the community.
Yeah,
At this
I
point,
feel that.
they're like the kid that always wants to like buy their friends gifts and like to make them like them. Um, but instead, Amazon made like a shitty game and now is making a new service, and they're like, please like us.
Mhm.
We're trying to make Twitch better. Please like us. Um, I don't know. I personally think that at first my gut instinct was like that'll never work, and then I looked at like what they're pitching basically, and from a spec perspective, it pretty much matches Stadia. Um, they aren't really giving us a whole lot of information for us to like actually compare their service against Stadia. So right now it's just kind of hearsay.
Yeah.
But what it gets me is like you start thinking of the Twitch maybe integration.
Yeah.
You have apparently Ubisoft coming soon within their like subscription base.
Mhm.
So I mean their subscription, it starts at $5.99 for early access per month. Um and then you can,
How much
I
did
mean,
Stadia cost? I don't even
I
remember.
want to
It
say
was
it was
more than
13
that
a
though.
month.
Yeah,
It
it
was
was
definitely more than that.
and then they had like a pro membership on top of it, which was
Yep.
like even more. So $6
And then
doesn't sound too bad.
their controller that they released with it has Alexa built in. They even said like you could say, "Hey Alexa, play Grid," and then you just launch the game.
Mhm.
Kind of cool. It also looks like an Xbox controller, so I'm like, that's pretty dope. Um, so yeah, I mean, and outside of that, there's really no other information. I mean, they had Control on their main page and like games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the main page. I have no idea what that symbolizes, but if that means you buy this bundle and then you have a subscription to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like through their service, it'd be kind of lit. But
Yeah, so like that's where I get confused because yeah, like obviously on their site they're showing Ubisoft as like their first streaming channel, but they in the frequently asked questions area they show like um there's going to be more streaming what do you call them? Just channels. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, so is that going to be additional money on top
oh,
of
like cable.
yeah, and I saw an article that was like Amazon's basically trying to become the cable of video games, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute though. Like, I don't know if that's gonna be beneficial because, like you watch Hulu, right? And other
Mhm.
streaming services. Hulu seems to do this the most, and I think I've seen it on HBO. You can buy an additional like subscription to watch it inside of Hulu for like Showtime or like I guess HBO is in Hulu, not that other way around. So like you'll get
And not
there's
anymore, I don't think.
okay. So it might make some changes, but like that's what is looking like what's happening here. So let's say that all of a sudden cuz Microsoft has made a deal with EA Play, but it's like no additional cost. So it's like okay, are they going to do that with other like I don't know, what's another developer like Bethesda is now a Microsoft thing. So like what are some other big ones? Cuz like
Um,
Ubisoft and EA are two big ones that people just kind of like I don't know, man. Like they're kind of garbage. Or sometimes they make some hits, but I can't really think of like a big one.
I don't know why my mind is blanking. Larian Studios and, like,
Yeah, I guess that's more like a double A though, like cuz I'm thinking like Ubisoft and oh, I know one, like 2K. 2K games.
yeah,
Cuz
if
they
that
cuz
would
they
be
make
nuts.
like, Borderlands, well like the publisher for that and then they make the sports games as well. So like they're a big company. If they have that come in, like now I got to like additionally pay for that. Like I hope it's like tied into the $6 or like there's some sort of like, you know, pro membership.
Here's my take on this whole it's gonna be the cable of whatever. That argument has some sort of holding as in my opinion, but at the same time, you have to realize what, like, these cable companies were charging people.
Yeah,
It was, like, astronomical prices for channels,
I
and
get
that's
that.
what I'll judge on based on this. Here's the thing about Hulu. They were charging, like, for their live package, right? The closest thing you can get to cable and to basically the same price for cable. It was, like, I think 59 a month, and compared to what cable was costing people, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, the only
So
thing is that like cable didn't start at that price though. Like it
okay,
sneakily
yeah.
goes up. So like obviously they're going to start with something that looks more attractive, but then like expect price hikes. And for an example, Microsoft's Game Pass on PC was $5. And nobody really realized that they were going to hike that up in a year. So now they were like, okay, that was an entry price. Now it's $10. So like I'm not really kicking my feet about it, but like I would assume that kind of thing would happen here. Same way that like Netflix started at 8, but now if you want HD 4K, you got to pay the 15 or what 14 whatever it is. So like
It's just the business model of subscription-based services,
yeah.
and cable is honestly the forerunner of that service working. Here's my thing: is cable as it started out cheaper, that's true, and as they made newer technology that made your life easier on cable, it got steadily higher price. And what I think we'll see with this is that it will start out at this base price, right?
Mhm.
And then is as it grows older and gets more expensive, I think the threshold for them to meet their new market price will will in turn that they have to have the same like either new technology or benefit has to match that. I don't think cable was just like there was nobody else to beat, and then there was nowhere else for them to go. So
Mhm.
therefore it kind of just flatlined and the price still rose. Here, there's so many competitors within this market that I think the price hikes won't actually be dramatic enough for it to matter. I mean, Netflix has been around for forever. New competitors are still in here, and still the price is still like within a reasonable 12 a month. Um, and the best thing about the subscription model with this is something like this service is easily cancelable versus trying to cancel cable back in the day or in
Yeah,
high school would take forever. And
the
then there was just
retention people you got to
yeah.
talk to. Yeah.
And then, like, if you want to go to a different provider, you have to go through all the hoops of getting it installed and whether or not it was compatible with your house. So it's a valid argument. It's a valid like foreshadowment, but I don't think it's nearly this level that cable companies were able to monopolize certain aspects. I think that there's going to be within these internet service providers and with these subscription based services that there's so much competition that it helps level out the playing field and helps level that price.
Yeah.
Um, because the thing is if it goes too high, people will just not use it, especially something like this, especially something that's cloud based and it's actually kind of just a luxury item.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I'd
Yeah,
never really thought about it.
it's luxury. It makes you more accessible to play. It doesn't actually it's not a requirement to play the games by any means.
Yeah, it's definitely not the practical application of video games. But the cool thing about this all, because I think what still stands between this and Stadia, like I don't want to just ignore this part, is like the internet thing is still gonna be an issue. Like they didn't just magically figure it out. Like there's still
Yeah.
gonna be problems with streaming. Like that's gonna take, I think, a few years to kind of like hash out. So if they launch better, like with I don't know. We'll have to see. I just think they're gonna run into the same issues. But
I would agree.
focusing on the positives of it, I think that if they do some sort of Twitch integration in the way that you could even like stream from their server side, so like now it kind of lowers the burden of needing to buy all the hardware on the streaming side, not just the gaming side.
And just have good internet.
Yeah. So like I don't think that that's going to happen like on launch or anytime soon because what they advertised with Twitch was just kind of like you can watch Twitch on it. Like they didn't really explicitly say you could stream your game, but I think there's potential for that. So where now, okay, I want to play Control because that's what they showed in the trailer. Now I can just literally just like make it on Twitch the same way that on Sony's PlayStation they had a built-in Switch Twitch stream thing that wasn't great, but you could put like your face in a corner and show the game. So I think that would be kind of cool. But again, like you said, it's a luxury item. This isn't really practical. And also, I don't think it would work as well as having the hardware because of all the encoding and stuff that needs to happen. And then they send it to your house and then get sent back to Twitch. Like it's gonna be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. One thing I think it would be interesting is I wonder the data that they collect when people are start streaming the video games because
Mm-mm.
I bet we get some really interesting metrics on gaming tendencies between gamers, and I bet there might be a with their endpoints of how they're streaming it through the cloud. I bet they can collect some really on Google side too with Stadia. I
Hmm.
didn't think about this till now, but there might be some really interesting metrics on gamer tendencies and maybe like time span of active play versus non-active. Like I wonder if there's going to be any new like statistics out there for gamers. I don't know. That might help benefit the gaming community or hurt. I don't know.
I think that so like this kind of thing already happens on Steam, but Valve doesn't do shit with it. They just kind of tuck it away in a tab in a store where you can go look at your active users in a certain game and like time of day, what they peaked. They show a little graph, but like not a lot of people go to it. But we're talking about like Amazon and Google who run like cloud services and have metrics like they do this. So I would be hopeful that they would take those metrics and like do something with them. Like give us what you're saying might happen because Valve could probably do that. Like they let you opt into sharing your hardware data as well, but like Amazon and Google I feel like would probably, they're already collecting so much data anyway, so it's like I don't know. Like Facebook requires a Facebook account to play on an Oculus now. So like they're capturing metrics and stuff, but they're gonna be
Yeah.
sneaky about it. So
My whole thing is like I like smart advertising. I don't know why people get upset when like, oh, I this is something I was thinking about or viewed on a different page and now they're advertising to me. Uh,
I don't think they get upset about that though. I think they get weirded out when like they didn't look it up. They just spoke it out loud to someone and then they see the ads.
yeah, I guess that's
Which
true.
sometimes it's just a coincidence, but there's a lot of times where you be like, "Oh yeah, like I want some pizza." Like you'll say a specific place, like I want some Luminati's pizza, Chicago local. And now you're seeing Luminati's on the thing. You're like, "I didn't look it up." That's when you get freaked out.
Yeah, that's true. But what I'm getting towards is like I wouldn't be mad if like I was playing through this Amazon service, and since I played a certain amount of hours,
They
of
start
some sort of
recommending you a
game,
different game.
they like email me with like, "Hey, here's a 10% discount on like this type of game if you want to use our marketplace to get it." I'm like, "Okay, Amazon," and then like actually giving me good recommendations for a discovery queue for video games might be dope. because Steam has been slacking on, like, I'll hit my like queue, and I'm like, I don't want any of these weeb stuff. Like, I'm
Bro, see, the funny thing is, all right, this also plays into like, you know how you said you did, you looked at an ESPN clip one time and Facebook just shoved it down your throat, right? You
yeah.
probably like clicked on a game that you didn't realize was like anime based, and then now they're giving it to you because you viewed it. But like they actually do base that on stuff that you have interacted with. So it's not like you're just like randomly getting thrown anime stuff. Like you must have either played or accidentally clicked on some anime shit.
I don't know what it is, but for like literally 2 months now, I've had to hit ignore on so many games. I'm like, I don't want any of these. Like,
Yeah.
please stop. Give me an.
But we already talked about the suggestions in a previous episode, but what else is new with you?
I mean, I've been starting to play Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay, hold on. We can't talk about that yet. Because we're going to dive deep.
What's new with you?
Before we get into that, I finally beat The Witcher 3 after 5 long years of putting it off. I'm very proud of myself.
Good job, Taylor.
Thank you,
I'm
dude.
glad you played a fantasy game.
It's not even the fact that it's a fantasy game. It's the fact that I don't even know why I pushed it off for so long. Like, I think it was so intimidating with the amount of time you could spend, but I just kind of like was like, all right, I'm gonna just focus on the story, and then I put in 47 hours, and it's gone. Well, I mean, I'm gonna keep playing it, but DLC's coming up next. But I'm very happy with it, and I am also very surprised that this game hadn't been spoiled for me, because I had seen late game cutscenes just because it's been 5 years, and I've seen like clips of stuff in different game videos, but it hasn't been spoiled for me. And
Bro.
let me say one thing. I'm not gonna spoil it for you either, because I don't
Yeah,
think
please don't.
you haven't. But they were playing with me at the end. I got there's like 3 different endings you can get. I got the good ending, but they made you feel like you got the bad one. And I was sitting there like shitting myself. Like, what? And then like they debate you. So I was like, all right, fine.
I'm not surprised. Like, as soon as you told me that, as soon as I watched the Marvel Cinematic Universe with you, and you managed to avoid literally all spoilers for that entire MCU, like up to Infinity War,
90% of them.
up to well, the main one, Infinity War,
But
and I was
like
just like,
Infinity War had only been out for a year. So like I just kind of like in the heat of Twitter, I don't go on Twitter really. So like that helped. But like anytime somebody referenced it, all right, don't look.
bro, like there were so many memes of Infinity War
Well, yeah, there
online.
was the disintegrating people. I had some guy on my team, like they had an app that made like allowed for you to make yourself do that. And after a cross country race, or I think it was a track race, he was on the ground fading away. But out of context, what does that mean to me? Nothing. Like think
I
about it.
guess,
So
yeah,
like
I
the
guess.
entire movie, you have that in the back of your head, but you don't know what that means.
But
So like,
also the Tom Holland one, the where he's like Spider-Man, was a big meme as well.
but which one are you talking about?
When he's like, I don't feel so good, and it's him like
Yeah.
fading away.
What does that mean to me as well? I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. All right, he got a tummy ache. Like, I don't.
Anyways,
It's just,
I,
it's funny.
that you avoiding all those tells me your skill of avoiding spoilers. So I was like, he's probably never gonna get anything spoiled for him.
Well, don't say that, because I definitely have gotten some minor spoilers for other things, but like, there was never really a time where I like got mad that somebody spoiled something for me. Like, at least if one did happen, I don't remember it and it wasn't important. But this has kind of given me some craving for like single player story driven games though, because I tried to go back and play like Borderlands 3, and I like couldn't do it. Like
Oh,
I was
really?
enjoying the gameplay, right? But after getting like
Surprisingly.
a cinematic game where you make choices and they matter, and like I was like watching a movie while playing the game, when Borderlands has like these goofy derpy characters stand still and just like spit out stuff, I was just like, all right, I can't do this right now. It's too soon after that kind of thing. So I spent like 2 days trying to find out what other game to play while just grinding Hades, which is fire, by the way.
I I haven't played it in a while, but it's
Yeah,
so good.
it's addictive. But, I was trying to decide between, like, Red Dead Redemption 2, Death Stranding, and Control because those were 3 games that came out in the fall/winter of 2019. Red Dead came out on PC then, not the console. But I was trying to decide between those 3 games because they were all $40, and Red Dead was on sale. Control released their Ultimate Edition with all DLC for 40, and then Death Stranding, I found a sale, like, off of Steam, and I was like, "Alright, what am I trying to do here?" And it took me 2 days to finally pull the trigger, and what helped is that Red Dead, I waited too long and it went off sale. So I was like, "Alright, well, I think I'm just gonna get Control." And I hate to say it, Keegan, but this game is fire. You said you wanted it to fail really hard, but I like it. And I think the only reason I didn't get it earlier is because of your direct opposition to it at all accounts. Like, just complete prejudice to it. I hate this game.
I still stand by it with like zero backup or any evidence. I still stand by my prior statements.
I mean, I guess sometimes you just gotta be irrational about something, or maybe you just you're saying it like that so you don't have the temptation to play it, which I can
Both,
respect that.
both. I really can't. Like I have
That's fair.
zero time to dive into a game that literally looks like a cookie cutter game. That's my problem. Is like everyone's like it's so fire, and I look at the trailer. I'm like I don't. I'm
Yeah.
not hooked into it. It looks so.
It
It
looks
looks like a
pretty
cubicle.
bare bones. Like,
It literally looks like a cubicle. If I like playing a dope game inside of a cubicle is what it looks like to me.
yeah, like Mr. Normal SpongeBob. But
Yeah, pretty much.
like, see, where I'm thinking I'm drawn to it, first of all, the aesthetics of the game are nuts. Like, I'm talking about just like UI design and simplicity. I like that because like I've tried to reflect that in our podcast with some of the designs. Like, you know how dark mode pops up on the screen when we before we say like welcome back? Like they
Yeah,
do
like
that.
this.
Nice, nice. They Gibbs, you got that? You gotta put that in later. All right, cool.
Oh yeah, by the
Gibbs will
way,
still be here in season 2.
yeah, we haven't fired him yet, or I guess theoretically he hasn't quit yet.
Yeah, why does he likes pizza a lot. Lumonati's pizza slaps. Deep dish. Anyway. That pops up on the screen every time you enter a new area. So, like, you know how sometimes the like in games will come off on the side, like new area discovered? It's like a big like thump, like you found something, and it'll show like power plant, like or NSC power plant. And it feels dope every time you do it to the point where I'm here sitting here like, dang, that was cool. Like every time it happens. I don't know why I'm such a sucker for it. Like they do that in movies too. Like when I think it was like Blade Runner, the new one at least. I don't remember if they did in the old one. When they show the title sequence, it's just like bam. I think it looks nice, and then it's got like that flat UI, like it almost looks like software, and it's like I think it's really clean. But yeah, the gameplay's fun, but the only hiccup, and it's not even that bad, is that this game is so demanding because you know how like each
It's
year,
needy.
what?
It's needy.
It's neat. It's needy on my computer, dude. It's putting Athena to work. Now, you know how like each year they kind of have like a flagship game that like is selling their card for like its performance. Like they did that with like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I even think like Rise of the Tomb Raider before that. And then like last year it was Control. They were like ray tracing, lighting, shadows, everything. I tried to boot this up with my 3-year-old GPU. Now, granted, I have a i9 90 or yeah 9900K, which is just like not at all getting full value with my GPU because I'm still waiting on that 3080, which is like impossible to get. My thing could not hit 40 frames per second. I was getting like 35 frames per second on 1440p at like medium, and I was like, okay, wow. And also I didn't have ray tracing on because I can't. I was playing in DX11, which is the type of
So game's trash. I was
yeah,
right.
no. Anyway, so I have to put it down to 1080p and upscale it to 1440p and play on medium settings, which is basically what the consoles play like. And people might be like, why didn't you just get it on console? It's like, well, I kind of wanted to play with the mouse and keyboard and whatever. But the game still looks crazy good. Like, I can't get over it. Like, it's a very aesthetically pleasing game, even on medium 1080p upscaled to 1440p. Um, so I don't know. It's fun.
Dope.
All right, Baldur's Gate, hit me.
Okay. Here's the thing. So I had a migraine one day
hmm
and I took my prescription meds, and what it does is just clunks me out.
Out like a light.
Pretty much. I was zen the fuck out. All right. um so I'm out, wake up at midnight because I slept from like 6 p.m. till then. Wide awake. I
hmm
decide to do the unrationable, which is boot up Baldur's Gate 3 for the first time. This game is so good. I played that for like 3 hours, and it was only doing my character creation, dude. Um,
You spent 3 hours on the character creation, or you did like an
2 hours,
hour and then you played some.
2 hours.
Jeez, what did you do to the character?
It is so Taylor. I'm not kidding you. That I think you are just gonna freak out on this character development and character creation, because what they do is they literally take D&D 5th edition and put it into this game. Like it is crazy to the level of extent that you have control over your character, what class, what
hmm
subclass, and like what spells you can actually obtain within like a warlock or a wizard, whatever.
Yeah.
And you get your background and you can develop your skill points. So, I mean, in D&D, when you're creating a character sheet, it takes a lot of time and effort. Same thing goes into this game. Like it takes a lot of like thinking through how your abilities will like mesh with your like skills, like dexterity, strength, whatever. So there's a lot of back and forth and debating what you want to do. I think there's something like 8 races to choose from and like 6 classes.
hmm
So it's a lot of debating. And so far, I mean, it's early access, right? So far, I've only ran into a few hiccups. It's the game's playing really well. I love the combat. I can go on and on about that, but I I haven't fully gotten into the game to a point where I can give a really full rundown of the actual game because it is still in early access and we get daily updates and patches. So, but I mean, if you are a fan of any RPG style, you're a fan of D&D, you're a fan of Larian Studios in general on like turn-based strategy or XCOM, you need this game. You need this game in your life. Now, one like little like disclaimer: don't buy it yet, which is
yeah.
super weird. It's super weird for somebody to say that, but like, if you want something that's like super playable and early access to you is like you get the first chapter and you get to play it with a smooth ship, like don't buy it yet. Wait a few months probably.
And that's not
Um,
anything unheard of in the concept of early access. Like, for example, Hades, like, was an early access game, and I waited till 1.0. So, like, I would
right,
definitely do that here. But
because it is full price. If you buy this game, it's full price
that's
early access.
weird to me. Like, I feel like under no circumstances should you charge a full 60 for like you're paying for the entire game when only a certain section is done. You should pay for the respective amount. Like maybe even like $30. Like I just when I went on to the Steam store, I fully went on there expecting like 30 or $40. And when I saw 60, I was like, you're joking.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Do you expect 30 and then you have to pay 30 to upgrade it to full?
Yeah. Like when
Okay.
the rest of the game comes out, like they'll have an upgrade to the full thing. Cause like it's the same with like a pre-order. You put money down, right? Like you can put however much down. You could pay full price, but I think it is a little bit weird to like I know they gave like the full disclaimer, like don't play the game yet. If you want a smooth sailing ship, if you want to like not help us out, like if you don't, they said like if you don't care about helping out the devs, don't buy it. Like we need feedback. But I think it's weird to ask for feedback and then ask for $60 to give them that feedback. Like,
The thing about this game is it's been in development for so many years, and I like the way that they clarified it because they made it very clear that like don't buy this game expecting that. This is for the people, like you said. This is for the community that's like our day oneers that are full support of this game and want to support it. Um, I'm not like, opposed to it because for $60 you do get 30 hours of gameplay. And that's just on like one character if you want. You get to be really part of the community on making the game better. Because the community as a whole is pretty wide. And I've been waiting for, I mean, there's so much anticipation and hype for this game, and it's not like the other early accesses where it's still really rough. It's actually really playable. Like, I mean, Madden was a worse game on launch than this was.
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
But, like,
there
Madden is not a good comparison because EA doesn't give a shit about that game. They obviously do give a shit about this game, but when you're saying that you want it to be or they want it to be for, like, their day ones, their diehards, is that at the expense of, like, bringing in anybody new? Even in the early stages? Like, they can still benefit from people that might like, for instance, me, be like, "Oh, I have interest in this game," but, like, now I see the cost of entry and I am completely opposed to it. Like,
I
and it's
think
not
that's
like I
good.
don't wanna help out with the development because I would be like, "Okay, like, here's some feedback." Like, they're basically, like, shutting themselves off from outside opinion, which I think is bad because they're gonna only get what they want to hear, not any sort of thing that could be constructive.
I disagree. I think that the
Obviously,
people,
because you bought it for $60, like, and you're not having a problem with
okay,
that when you could have used that $30 elsewhere.
but here's the thing. I think that the $60 price tag weeds out the feedback that they don't need. I think people that, if it was 20 to $30 on early access, they would have a lot of players in there complaining, only complaining and not giving the constructive feedback they need.
Have you
I
read
think
the
the
Steam reviews
60
yet?
brings in what?
Have you read the Steam reviews yet? I saw
Uh,
the same amount as normal of, like, buying just to say, "This is stupid to ask this." So people it's not reading out really much. I'm telling you now. I saw the same exact shit. I just think it's very weird to ask $60 for a early access game when I haven't really seen that before. It's, like, not a normal thing to do.
I would agree it's not normal, but I don't know. To me, it's warranted for the amount that they're giving their fans and for the level of like they had to delay it to this point. Like they weren't just gonna give a shitty early access. Like it was still gonna be a quality. It's not like you're getting, they had to release something. And at this point, I think Larian Studios is in a weird spot where if they were still a single A company, right? They weren't at the level that they are at now. I bet you it would have been a lower price. But they are making the transition in that they're getting bigger and bigger. They're making quality, more quality of games. Like they are making huge games now. Baldur's Gate 3 was always going to be a massive game to begin with. It's bigger than Divinity Original Sin 2, which was their prior largest game.
Did that game come out in
And
early access?
what?
Did Divinity come out in early access?
Yeah, they did the exact same thing when Divinity Original Sin 2 came out in early access.
I feel like they're doing some
And
weird shit.
to me, if they let's say Microsoft acquired them, and then now they're not like this indie game that was getting bigger. Now they are in the AAA. They're the big leagues. I think that they would have less requirement on the fact that this early access and having these people in here and supporting them with their servers early would have less monetization costs, so that they would be able to release it at a lower early access rate. Because
But
with the indie developers,
usually in the sense that you're now under a bigger publisher, you don't do early access anymore. The early access is when you're usually smaller, more independent, and you don't have access
okay,
to the resources like play testers and other stuff. So like
okay,
that it's gonna be $60 anyway. And that's why I just find it weird that with it not being a big main studio that they're charging that for an unfinished game.
okay. And let's put it this way: in the market of early access games, there's not that, oh my goodness, there's not a lot of people on the market that are early access that are this type of game, this massive a game, doing early access. When you hear early access, it's usually indie developers or like these like online multiplayer games that they want to get out the door and have people in them and do playtesting. This is like a really cinematic single player co-op multiplayer RPG game that normally those types of games just get released like Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's not having early access. But if Cyberpunk went to early access, you damn well better expect them to be releasing it at $60. You know that that would happen.
I don't because they wouldn't do that. Like I think we're at different opinions of early access because you don't play early access games. I have, and I've never paid $60 for one or never would. And usually the benefit of getting in at early access, like especially when people launch stuff on Kickstarter, is that you got in so early you got a discount because you were there the entire time. And then like you can show support in other ways. Like I think it a little bit ridiculous to ask $60 regardless of the fact that oh it's 30 hours, but it's a fifth of the game. Like
I think, well, yeah, and I see your point, and I think if Baldur's Gate 3 at the beginning of 2020 released early access, asking $60 for that game is a different ballpark from what they're releasing now. I think if it was shitty upon release and you paid $60 and you can't even play it, that's a different story.
yeah. I mean, like, it does to look to be a pretty decently well polished first half of the game. And like, I'm not saying that I don't want to play it. I just like would never spend that much if I literally would then have to wait months. Like, I don't like they don't have really a roadmap of when the game's supposed to be finished yet, do they?
Uh, they I believe they said 2021, but I could
Okay,
be wrong.
like they don't have a window yet. And obviously with like the fact that they were like coming August maybe, they know that there's, different things going on. I'm not willing to give away the full cost of a game when I don't really have an idea of when I can play it. Because it's like, you know how when you pre-order a game, like game launches will go live like 8, 10, up to like 12 months in advance. Like why am I gonna spend $60 on a game I can't even open until next year?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's like a little bit different here because you obviously can play something, but then now you're gonna play 30 hours and then you're just gonna be sitting there itching so hard until, let's just say 8, 9, 10 months later. And like that might get delayed and you've still out $60. Like I just I don't really agree with it.
yeah.
But from what I've seen that with the gameplay that it's added to the parts that I thought were a little bit like hard to come or hard to go through in Divinity. Like when I'm, interacting with other players in cutscenes, like they're not really cutscenes. It's just like me watching two top-down characters, which is text, and like they had good voice acting, but I felt like detached. And like after playing like 40 some hours of that, it kind of got old. And eventually I want to get back to beat it before I play this, and I'll have time because it's going to be 2021 by the time I can play this. But having those cutscenes and like cinematics and stuff like that makes me more excited to like hear the story because it's like I have something to entertain me while I'm getting it instead of just like basically listening to either someone's voice or like just like trying to read text super fast to get through it. But that's pretty cool. And I heard there's a bunch of other quality of life like improvements that we don't need to get into because there's literally so many because they listen to the community and they go through them all. But I am a little bit more excited to play this game than I was Divinity. And I think that also comes hand in hand with the fact that like I ended up enjoying Divinity more than I thought. But, you know, other games came out. My true, you know, Taylor interest came out. We're like, we're going back to FPS games. So like it's been a
Yeah.
while. But
And with this one, you hit smack dab in the middle of the story. Like it doesn't take any, like in Divinity, you have to be a pretty good strategic player to get out of the first act.
yeah, that first act took 20 hours. Like,
And this one, you kind of hit immediately as like a pretty well developed character with power wise. So like,
okay. So you don't have to like spend 20 hours trying to get your dang collar off because that was
no,
really boring.
nope,
But that's cool. I'm excited because like the story does look pretty interesting, and like you said, it's a good way to like get into D&D. And because like the tabletop stuff doesn't interest me as much, like this will be a nice little like entryway, and who knows, maybe then I will be more open to that because like this will basically be my fun tutorial. You know how I don't like to hear someone like tipsily explain something to me, because
yeah.
usually people are drinking when they're playing, but I'll actually just be able to just like play it. So that's cool. We'll look forward to it.
One thing I'm looking forward to is there's been a couple news articles the past couple weeks about Spider-Man 3. And no, I'm not talking about, the OG Spider-Man 3.
Oh, when he's
You
walking
know,
down the street dancing, dude, that's forever best Spider-Man 3. Nope, no
um,
more.
so a couple weeks ago, Jamie Foxx gets casted back to be Electro,
Mhm.
and that sparked up a bunch of people like, "Whoa, that's kind of interesting." Are we tying that back into the Amazing Spider-Man, which had Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man?
Mhm.
What's going on with that? And then it was kind of quiet for a week, and then they hit us with this: "Hey, Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be in it as Doctor Strange."
Uh-oh.
And then
The internet
the Marvel
exploded.
fandom's like, "Yo." This
Cause no,
might be
you
the
sent me the articles, and I'm like, all right, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, he's a character like Doctor Strange. Like, okay, this is cool. But then you were like, you know what that means, don't you? And I was like, no, please enlighten me. You're like live action
Spider-Verse.
Spider Verse. I was like, oh yeah, that is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and so with Electro being casted, everyone's assumption is that they're going to tie in the Spider-Man movies, like the other live action Spider-Man movies. Um, that's the assumption. The rumors are going around about the Spider-Verse and tying that in. Basically, Doctor Strange just adds a whole spin zone on what the next Spider-Man movie was going to be about.
Mhm.
So I don't know. This might be the first time I'm actually behind a rumor from the get go. Like it seems like a safe bet that they're going to do something with realities.
But yeah, especially because like, there's no way that they bring in a dude that travels through multiple dimensions without referencing that is Spider-Man. Like, if they don't
Yeah,
openly like, "Oh, the Spider-Verse," like, he's gonna be doing it. There's no way he doesn't. That's probably, like, the safest bet you'll make in a while.
everything with Spider-Man lately has been pointing towards Sinister Six being the next like major arc.
Mhm.
I know that means nothing to you, but
Well, it didn't until I read the article, and then
okay.
the people that make up the Sinister Stick excuse me, I can't even speak, Sinister Six. I'm like, "Okay, I know, like, all those characters, like, Green Goblin and, uh was it Scorpion, Rhino, like the works, like other ones in there. And I'm like, dude, I really like the Spider-Man uh I don't want to say universe because,
Lore.
but yeah, the lore of Spider-Man and like I grew up playing Spider-Man video games and stuff. So like if they do that team in one of these or lead up to it, I'll be pretty pumped.
I will be too. I mean that's what the whole plot of Spider-Man on PS4 was around, and like
Mhm.
my thing is I really hope they tie in also because Morbius is supposed to be a live action movie that's coming out, which Morbius kind of lives within the Spider-Man world as well. He's like
Mhm.
the living vampire within the Marvel universe. They even did a nod to the Spider-Man PS4 game within the Morbius trailer. We also have Carnage coming out, which is the sequel to the Venom movie. That's within the Spider Sony universe stuff. So there's a lot that could happen with Doctor Strange. Like Jamie Foxx being casted back was like, ooh, maybe, but maybe they just really want to give him a shot to be a better villain and not make his skin blue, which I hated that. And then then Doctor Strange getting casted was like, oh shit, okay, shit's going down.
We're here.
Like
We're
we
doing it.
thought it was gonna get a little weird. It's gonna get weird. So I'm excited, but it'll be 2022 by the time I get to see it. So
Yeah.
we'll
I don't
see
know,
anything
man.
really.
Well, like Into the Spider-Verse, the animated version, the sequel was set for like spring 2021, I think. So I don't know if that might get delayed as well, but uh I mean, that in and of itself is going to be a lot of fun. So like that probably will be coming out before this Spider-Man
Maybe
3 even if it gets delayed.
I don't know. Maybe it might be like 2023 before we can watch anything. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
So I don't know, but either way, Spider-Man content's coming out in the next couple years and I'm pretty pumped cuz
But
like I said, he's one of my favorites.
I tell you what, Taylor. You know what people will be able to watch season 2 of
Season
Darkwood
2.
next week.
Gibbs is shaking his head, dude. He's like, "Come on." But
Hey,
yeah,
got to do it.
it'll happen next week. I don't even know what it's gonna be called. If we're gonna do some cool stuff with it, we're gonna try. We'll see how
I
it
don't
goes.
know. Just
like
be
like
Dark Mode season 2. Please subscribe.
oh
hit the
man,
like button. Hit the subscribe button. Notification bell. In season 2, that's like the whole title of our season 2.
pretty much. Yeah. So we'll be doing new stuff. Try to do new cool stuff. We'll see what happens. Give us some feedback. Leave us some comments. Be ready to catch us in the next one, next season, whatever you want
Like,
to
yeah, catch you in the next season. You too, Gibbs. You're not leaving.
say.
You actually can't leave.
You live here now. Oh, God.